Okay, welcome back. We're basically still on page 23 talking about creating a new project. And so one of the first things we're going to do is go in and basically set it up. So under project, there's a thing called project information. And it allows you to have a start date. So I'm going to use the start date that they have in the book, which is 9/9/13. Okay? I'm going to leave everything else the same. That's perfectly okay. And hey, here's another cool thing. In other words, you're working the project from a start date. You could have it work from a finish date. I've been on projects where it has to be done by this time, so I need to know when to start. You know, I can start it anytime I want as long as it's done at this time. I've had some projects like this. Most of them aren't like that. It's like, okay, the contract closing is finished, and so I need to go build my house, and so it's based upon the start date. So I'm going to leave that. So now I have the start date set up. But unfortunately, it says Project 2 here. I mean, that's kind of dumb, right? I want a title. So we want to save this thing as something with a title on it. And the way you do that is kind of weird. You can't change the title anywhere inside this thing. You have to go to File and Info. And over here it says Project Information. And there's a little down arrow. So I'm going to click on that and go to Advanced Properties. And here's where I get the title of the project. And we're going to call this Project A+. Why? Because, by God, that's what it says to do in the book. And so I'm going to do that. Okay, whoa, good. Now we got the project set up. The name of the file hasn't changed, but that's okay. When we get to File, Save As, we can give it an honest-to-God real name here. Right? We can come in here, and instead of calling it Project 2, we can call it, Project A+, or whatever we want to call it. I'm going to call it something like that. Okay, cool. All right. So, the next thing you have to do is you're going to have to enter some WBSs. So, on figure A23 on page 23, there's a list of WBSs they want you to enter. So I'm going to enter a few here, but certainly not all of them. Let me grab the book and do that. Okay, on page 25, I was wrong. On page 25, we want to add some of these things. So I'm just going to go right over here to task and just type in a few of these things. So initiating. And then I'm going to do stakeholder stakeholder. I always think about vampires. Identification. And stakeholder register complete. Let's see. Management strategies. Project charter. And let's do charter complete. Okay, I am not going to type them all, but that's how we got started. So we just put these things. It's important that you put them in the correct order here as they appear in the textbook. So I've entered some WBAs. Yay! WBAs. WBSs. I need to get my language straight. So we're going to create some summary tasks. So I guess I need a little bit more. I'm going to need a couple more. I'm going to need 7 and 8. So 7 is kickoff. 8 is meeting complete. I'll go ahead and do 9. 9 is planning. Okay. So in order to create basically a summary, I want to highlight, just like in Microsoft Excel, I just want to, lasso, so to speak, with the mouse, light up 2 through 8. And now that I have 2 through 8, I want to do an indent. Well, I'm going to have to go back over here to the task view, by the way. And here's a little indent button. You see where it says indent? So that the arrow going that way means to shift the task over. So I'm going to do that. Doink. Now, some things happen. One is it put this become the summary task. It put it in bold, and then it put all the rest of these guys in there. Okay? Cool. So all you have to do to make a summary task is to light up the things you want and indent them. That's it. That's all you got to do. Cool. If you're following on the book, they want you to do them all. So numbering the tasks. Right now, the task numbers aren't necessarily in there, so there's a way you can do this. I'm going to go to Format, so make sure we're on task. Format, and then there's a thing down here under Show Hide. This is different than the other book. This is outline numbers. So in other words, this is task number 1, this is task number 2, and this is 1, 1, and 1, 2. Right? It's just kind of cool. And we're going to be talking about these task numbers here in just a moment. Because sometimes we're going to be using these numbers over here. Okay. So, one of the things that we want to do is, okay, let's say we're going to save this guy. So, I already did mine, so I'm just going to do it again. I'm going to say File, Save As. I'm going to browse for my guy, and I'm going to save this guy. Okay. I know I've already done it, but just bear with me. Okay, what we just did was what's called saving without baseline. Now, what that really means is, while you're in the midst of making this thing, well, okay, let me start over. Let's say that you built a Gantt chart, and then you started making changes to it. It's going to like track changes. If you ever use track changes in Excel or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint, whatever it is, it sets a copy, like freezes the copy, and then it shows you all the changes. So in other words, for example, let's say I put in here and I say, well, this is going to take 4 days to do. Okay, cool. While I'm making the Gantt chart, I do not want it to start tracking the changes that I made. In other words, it says, whoa, that went from 0 to 4. No, I just hadn't got to it yet. So it's perfectly okay while you're doing this just to save the thing without setting a baseline. Okay, now that's okay, one more time. So what's the point of baseline? Well, if I say it's going to take 6 weeks to do and you do it in 4 weeks, well, I have to have both the original estimate, the baseline, and the actual data. Otherwise, I mean, I can't just have what the actual data is. I need both, right? I need to have what the original schedule was and what the actual is, and maybe you're ahead of schedule, maybe you're behind. Either way, I still have to have both sets of data. Well, right now I don't want to have both sets of data because I'm in the midst of making my guy. Okay, whew. All right. So, if I ask you on a test question, why on earth would you want to save a project file without setting a baseline? How would you answer that? Okay, you think you got it? Okay, good. So on page 29, they talk about developing the schedule. So they make some assumptions. If I go to project and then change work time, they're going to make the assumption that we work, Monday through Friday, and so you get to pick whether or not, what the standard calendar is. You could say, for example, these are non-working days. You could throw in holidays in there. You could have some exceptions, like maybe you have a state holiday or, I don't know, the founder's birthday or something. You could put other things in there. Maybe you have a company picnic and no one's going to be at work that day. Whatever, you could throw in some extra things. The work weeks. Anyway, so you can go in and change the calendar because maybe you work 2 shifts. Maybe you work, 8 days a week. So that's how you would go in and make those changes. Okay, task duration on page 31. Here's an interesting thing about this duration column. This is the allowable amount of time that you can do. Let's say something's going to be 40 hours long. You could put 40 hours down, right? Makes sense? You can put 1 week down because that would be equivalent, right? Because we're only working 8 hours a day under that time schedule we just talked about. But I could allow them in the duration. I could allow them more. Now, it wouldn't make any sense to allow them less. I mean, if I know it's going to take 40 hours, I wouldn't want to put 30 in. But I definitely could put 50 in and give them a little bit of room to wiggle, right? I could. So most people try to make this kind of sort of optimistic because they know, pardon my French, they know that shit happens. Like in a construction project, well, it's going to take me so many days to do that. Well, yeah, but we had a rain. So you need a little bit of fluff in here. And later on, when we get to this point, there's actually going to be a cool little thing here, an extra column that talks about how much free time there is, or extra time. Okay, so that's what that's all about. So automatic scheduling, right now, these things are set up for manual scheduling. See where it says new tasks manually scheduled. We can change that if you like. You can go here. There's a way you can change it on all of them by you can light up the ones you want and convert them all to auto schedule. Okay, auto schedule is basically just going to assume that the dates are, it's basically, it's just copy and paste. Okay, it's just going to make everything one day and start the day of the previous thing that you did. Okay, that's it. And how helpful is this? Saved you a little bit of typing? Yeah, I guess. Okay, so in this particular case, it's probably not all that relevant for us while we're building this thing, particularly since the dates are so far in the past. But what the heck? Okay, today's date's not really relevant because we're talking about the calendar that we set up, where we told it where the project starts at 9/9. Okay, so let's talk about duration. On page 32, they talk about when you type in one of these guys, what are my choices? Well, you can say 1D for day. Okay, wait a minute now. A day. Does that mean... Okay, hold on. What if I said 7... Whoops, sorry. 7D. Okay? I'm going to go down here and say 1W, 1 week. Well, wait a minute. You mean 7 days is not the same as 1 week? Look at the size of those bars. What's going on here? Well, these are work days, not... So if I said 7 days, that's 7 work days. So here's Monday through Friday, and then 2 more days in the next week. So 7 days does not equal 1 week on the schedule. Does that sound like a test question to you guys? Okay, good. All right. What if I really, really, really wanted 7 honest-to-God real days? So in the language here, this is called an elapse day. So if I go here and say 7ED, elapse days, then that means honest-to-God calendar days. Okay, they give it a dang good example here when you might want to use elapse day. Let's say again, I'm going back to construction because it's just kind of easy for most people to wrap their heads around. I'm placing concrete for a foundation, and it's going to take 3 days for the concrete to cure. Okay? The concrete does not care if it's a Saturday, a Sunday, or a federal holiday. It's going to take 3 days to cure. Not work days, 3 actual days. So here, the ED would be a good one. So let me get through the list. So again, page 32. D for days, W for week, H for hours, MO for month, ED for elapsed days, EW for elapsed weeks. I use that one a bit. And so it's kind of sort of important to understand, the difference between these things because this is a work week. Okay, a milestone. So I can go in and pick one particular thing and make a milestone by having I'm going to pick one. I'm going to just put a 0 in here. Okay, so 0 automatically made that guy a milestone. He looks differently now. He's a diamond and he has a particular date. Okay, we're coming up on the 15-minute mark. We'll pause this and I'll see you guys again in just a few.